welcome everybody to Trojans Live on ESPN LA 710 and Facebook Live. It is officially Beat the Irish Week. We will get you ready for the greatest intersectional rivalry in college football with the head coach Clay Helton, tight end Tyler Petit off a 2-touchdown game. The Hall of Famer Anthony Munoz is going to call in and join the show. Plus, we can reintroduce ourselves to Mark Track, who's back to coach women's basketball his second stint. I am Jordan Moore. This is my man John Jackson. JJ, at this point of the season, it's survive and advance, and the Trojans did just that Saturday against Utah.
Yeah, what an exciting game. And I think it just shows the resolve of this team to not panic under pressure. We talked about it earlier in this year and what type of team is this going to be from a makeup standpoint, from a mentality standpoint. And the one thing that they continue to do is they don't panic when things aren't going their way. And that was what showed up on Saturday.
All right, we're going to talk to Coach now. But, of course, as always, our Facebook Live audience, you're welcome to throw your questions into the comment area. We'll see if we can get to some and send them Coach's direction. Time to talk to Coach. Trojan fans get one free admission to the Ralph's Ultimate Tailgate Experience to select USC football home games this fall when you purchase $35 of participating items at Ralph's. Look for the signs and tags in store. Every $35 you spend gets you one admission. All right, Coach, it was a tale of two halves certainly on Saturday. After a mistake-filled first half, what was the galvanizing factor? What got the team going in the second half?
Just the elimination of the mistakes. I thought just being brutally honest with them at halftime and telling them, hey, you are playing a game that you should be equal or in the lead with right now.
Yeah.
But because we've turned the ball over 3 times, we're behind. There doesn't need to be new plays drawn up in the dirt. There doesn't need to be a new plan. You have 262 yards of offense and only 7 points because we've turned it over in the red zone. And they took it to heart. I told the team today, I said, you know what, I was fired up at halftime. I could pat myself on the back and say, hey, that's a great speech. But at the end of the day, that's not true. We gave a very heartfelt speech, but at the end of the day, the players stood up and said, you know what, Coach, we're accountable to each other. We're going to be accountable to do our job. And they went out there and they played an extremely clean half, our best half of football, I thought, in all phases. 4 punts by the defense in a row that they produced. Offensively, having drives of 98, 88, and 93 to take the lead. It was our best half of football, and we challenged them at halftime, and credit to the players. They win games for us, and they did their job.
You know, Coach, we continue to talk about this team and how they're able to rally or even thrive under pressure, such as Texas when you're at the end of the game and make clutch plays, when it counts. Now that we're halfway through, do you sort of see like what kind of team this is and what it takes for them to respond? Are they like the teams I played on? We had some emotional guys, Leroy Holt guys were throwing chairs around the locker room, things of that nature. I know it's different for all teams. What is this team?
Well, I tell you, it's one of those times I don't use emotional speeches a ton, but as soon as we got in the locker room at halftime, I brought them all up and gave them a little bit of emotion and how I truly felt about how the game was going and how we're better than what we just played. And I thought from Chinna to Cam stepping up right after that and challenging everybody, they went out and they played for each other, and they played not to let their brother down, and they played clean football. They did a terrific job in the second half.
And as you said, nothing needed to be changed tactically at halftime, particularly offensively, because you were racking up yards. And I certainly saw it. I don't know. JJ and I will talk about it later. It did feel like you guys tried some new wrinkles. There were some new tendencies. Did you feel like you had some fresh things that Utah was seeing for the first time that worked out well on Saturday?
I thought there was a terrific game plan put together by T and the offensive staff, and then just the way the game was called. And that's what I told T at halftime. I said, T, you got 262 yards right now. You can't hand the ball off for him. You can't can't help him catch it. But it's one of those things. Show our poise right now and continue the plan. And I thought they did a really nice job. You saw us use Sam early in the game as a runner to try to – we knew we were going to have a loaded box and we needed to gain a number somehow, some way. So we used some zone read in that game, and in the fourth quarter it started taking over. You saw that defensive end flinch there on that last drive twice in a row, and there goes Ronald Jones, and there goes Vi. But I thought T called a wonderful game, a very poised game. Even when things were going great, he didn't change on the kids, and he stuck with the plan, and at the end of the day, the plan won.
You know, talk about bounce-back performances. You know, Sam Darnold, we've been on him and, you know, monitoring, I should say, him the whole way through. But then this game, unusual, 3 fumbles. I mean, he was credited with them. Not that they were all his fault, but he's credited with 3 fumbles in that game. But his ability to keep his poise, which was probably the most challenging thing for him, because it wasn't interceptions this time. It was fumbles. I know he was looking like, look, what else can go wrong? But he actually came through big for you in the second half.
Yeah, you know, I think you look at the month of October right now, especially in the passing game by Sam, I think it's 6 touchdowns, only 1 interception, 312 yards and 358 yards. And the plays that he made, especially on 3rd down, I thought were critical for our success. 7 of 14, and the one that really stood out to me, and I pointed it out to our team and to him and today at the Monday morning quarterback, is we're sitting there 3rd and 10 on that last drive to lead.
That was a big one.
And all of a sudden, we're in max protection. It's only a 3-man route. They drop everybody. The backers are deep. And he took the maturity to say, you know what, I'm not going to force this ball. I'm on my side of the field. I'm going to go ahead and run. I'm going to make a linebacker miss. I'm going to get the first down, and then there's 3 guys around me. And in this game last year, 1 year ago, he would have been diving and twirling, and the ball might have come out. But he got the first down. He got down. He protected himself. He protected the ball, and I thought it showed a lot of maturity and progress on his part from a year ago in this game.
Speaking of progress, no sacks allowed, and then the offensive line obviously won the battle as that game went on. What did you see from this particular unit of 5, and are these young guys starting to come of age?
Yeah, I think the youth that you're talking about is really starting to show, and I'm very proud of our coaches for developing that youth. Sometimes you focus on the older guys, the staffs, and that's where you go wrong. It's really building your 2s and 3s for the time that you need them. What a great learning lesson with Nico Fala, developing him at an early age, and then him now being a 3-year starter. But that last drive, it was a great feeling to look out there, be moving the ball, and your starting right guard and your starting right tackle are both true freshmen, and those 5 men are getting the job done on an 11-play, 93-yard drive that involves 7 runs and 87 yards worth of rushing. That's the way you want to end ball games. You run the ball to win.
You know, one of the hidden things for me going into the game, I thought would be a big problem for us trying to defend Utah in the past, because they had Carrington, the leading receiver, you know, in the conference, and some big receivers on the outside. And the choice is either blitz them or sit back. You didn't have to blitz them, which was probably what I thought one of the keys of the game, not having to be in that situation.
Yeah, no question. The tape that we showed the kids today, you know, the amount of times that we got to Troy, didn't get him down every time. He's a good player and he escaped. But to have 4 sacks and just to get him off his spot, and anytime you can get that quarterback off the spot, it interrupts timing of routes. And to hold what we thought is probably one of the best receivers that we've seen to date in Carrington to 2 catches and 9 yards, that is a tremendous job, not only by our defensive backs, but to be able to play coverage with 4-man rush and still get to the queue. That's big time.
Well, the challenges don't get any easier as we get going here, and it's a big one this week. USC Notre Dame, that is the topic next. More Trojans Live coming up on ESPN LA 710. Back at the lab, Jordan Moore, John Jackson, and the head coach, Clay Helton, on Trojans Live, getting you ready for USC Notre Dame. We're counting down to kickoff with Mito. Swiss watches since 1918, the official timekeeper of USC Athletics. Be the first to own the Fight On limited edition timepiece. True Trojan fans, visit shopmito.com/USC. That's shopmito, MIDO.com/USC. All right, let's talk a little defense before we get into Notre Dame. It was just... there are fewer talking points on defense because they have been so consistent and so solid. And one of those guys, Coach, to be honest, a guy that maybe you were asked a lot about as a potential question mark in spring, I don't think people were convinced. Well, Utah, to me, looked convinced about Jack Jones' ability after the first quarter. They threw at him, I think, 3 times in the first quarter. They found nothing there, and they barely threw at him the rest of the game. And I think that might start becoming a trend because he really has answered the bell through 7 games.
Yeah, here's a young guy that's really developed, had the opportunity to sit behind a great player in Adoree Jackson and learn from him, and now gets his opportunity. And you've seen him grow. What you hope as a head coach is you look up and your players are growing from game 1 to where we are now and going into game 8. So it's one of those things that you look at Jack and on paper you go, okay, this could be our area mismatch, and it's not. He's doing a terrific job of being able to lock guys up in man coverage and being physical in the run game too. You see him come up a bunch of times in games to force the edge and force the ball back inside. So proud of what he's doing right now. He's playing at an extremely high level.
You know, you have the #1 sack leader in the conference. But he wasn't even a starter. He wasn't even a starter to start the season. Christian Rector, I mean, it has been unbelievable watching him play. He has really turned things around for this entire defense. I know he's just one member of it, but he's been lights out.
Yeah, he's played really elite football right now, and there's a guy that made the most of his opportunity, is trained for this being his 3rd year, and gets his chance. And he's such a valuable member because he has the ability to be inside at 3 technique, matched up man-on-man with a guard, or go out to defensive end and create a size matchup, maybe on a tackle or a back. Or in that game, it was a tight end and a back that was matched up on him several times, and he was able to win those battles. So it was great to see. He's playing at a very, very high level, helping this team.
All right, well, we've got USC, Notre Dame, and South Bend this week, and the last time you coached there, that was kind of a whirlwind. What was that experience like? You get named interim. It's like, hey, coach, go get them. First game's up at South Bend.
Well, I tell you what, any opportunity that you get to be anywhere associated with a USC Notre Dame game, it gives you goosebumps because you know the history that's behind it. You know the legacy that's behind it, and what it means to both fan bases and both universities. It is one of the best rivalries in the history of college football, and to be a part of it in any facet is exciting. And to have the chance to go back there this time with this team is in what has turned out to be a big game for both teams.
No question.
Here late in the season makes it even more fun.
You know, the Trojans handled them pretty well last year. I mean, complete control of the game. But this year, it's a different Notre Dame team by far. Same coaching staff. I mean, there's a couple adjustments here and there. Maybe some guys getting older. But why are they so good this year?
I thought Coach Kelly, when we played them last year, had some bad luck. Had a ton of injuries on that team, and coming in there and Coach Kelly is a terrific coach, and when he has a healthy football team, he knows how to win. And one of the things that I've been impressed with is how he changes based on personnel. You see a terrific quarterback in Kaiser last year that throwing it around, and this year still has that, but he also knows that he has an unbelievable offensive line and a terrific running back. So he's really married up, where they were kind of more pass game last year. He knows that his strength is that running game, and he's leaning on it. And then the Q is doing such a great job as far as being a very accurate down the field thrower. So they're running the ball and trying to throw it over your head and putting up points on the board, a bunch of points on the board on opponents.
Yeah, they're definitely run first, number 5 rushing offense in the country. Where do they put pressure on you in the run game? Is it with that quarterback who's already running 8 touchdowns this season? Is he what makes them really a difficult matchup in the run game?
Yeah, you have to defend against the quarterback. But I tell you, there are times where they just line up and say, okay, here we go. We're putting 2 tights in, and we're going to run downhill at you. And they're very well coached. Their offensive line, I think, is extremely well coached. They are controlling the line of scrimmage. We've got a big challenge. This reminds me a little bit of the Stanford game as far as the physicality that it's going to bring to the table. But they're a well-coached team and playing some good football right now.
You know, in games like this, there's always so much emotion, and, the kids are going to see so many stories about what used to happen in the past. Not when I played, hopefully. But how do you sort of manage that rivalry part of it? I mean, you've been in enough rivalry games now to sort of, it's old hat for you. But each year for the kids, it's different, and different teams handle it differently.
Yeah, for us, it's special. I kind of sell it, to be honest with you. We talk about the trifecta of being able to play for the Shillelagh and play for the Victory Bell and play for Rose Bowls. And It's in our team meeting room. To be able to put your year up there that you were associated with a victory over Notre Dame or UCLA, or you won the Rose Bowl or the national championship, to be a part of that legacy is important to these guys. It's one of the reasons that you come to SC is to be part of those storied games. So the shillelagh's out. I may sleep with it all week, and I'm gonna show it to the team tomorrow, to those freshmen, so they understand the history of how important this game is to both universities and both fan bases.
Yeah, is that how you frame the stakes of the game? Basically, just make it a championship game for the shillelagh? Because I mean, you talk so much about the Pac-12 South and trying to win that, but in the middle of the season, all of a sudden, you sort of get taken out of that. This doesn't have anything to do with that. There's a greater college football playoff that's involved, but do you just sort of try to narrow it down for them?
Yeah, there's so much in play. I try to focus on the history and the tradition and the legacy of the game. That obviously it doesn't affect the Pac-12 race, but in this time, in this game, it has national implications. You're talking about 2 one-loss teams that are very talented teams that have an opportunity to do some special things here down the stretch. So in that frame, it does come into play. But each and every year, I try to bring out the rivalry part of it. When it comes to Notre Dame, it comes to UCLA, that's an important piece of SC history, and being a part of those victories are important to our kids.
How difficult is it preparing for this game? Because it's an important game, but it's a one-off game. There's not any other common opponents you can compare things to, or you can't compare them to how your guys match up in the Utah game or any other team that they play. Is it that much more difficult?
Well, the one thing that you got going for you is usually when you play non-conference opponents, usually you don't know them. You get maybe that back-to-back years, and then you're done with them for another 10, 15 years. In this case, you play them every year, so it feels like that conference game to you, because their guys. They recruit West Coast too, so we know some of their players, and we play them each and every year, which is awesome. And to be able to do that, then you kind of know personnel and you kind of know the philosophy of the coach. So that in that case, it does help you a little bit.
All right, well, we're counting down USC Notre Dame this Saturday, 4:30 p.m. kick here on the West Coast. It'll be 7:30 kick in South Bend. The game is on NBC and, of course, right here on ESPN LA, 710. Thank you to the coach. As always, it's Chevy Truck Month. Make a strong decision. Get to your Southern California Chevy dealer and choose the Silverado that's right for you. Learn more at SoCalChevy.com. 2 touchdowns for Tyler Petit on Saturday. That certainly earns him a spot on Trojans Live next on ESPN LA 710.